ground shake. voice in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away. The only thing between us is empty space, empty space. Even when the music is loud, I'd rather be no other place. Here with you now, here with you now.
Chase the wind and touch the sky. A star's light shines on long after it dies. Oh, in the night, I live every day as if it's your last. Our memories been bright like beacons of the past. Oh, in the night, now we race against the sun.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trackmania Grand League Winter 2021 coverage here for Scrapie and, of course, Team Lazarus here. Excited to have you guys with us. We're going to be broadcasting this season here from Scrapie's channel so we can interact with all of you amazing supporters here of Scrapie as well. We're excited to get this one underway. Obviously, going into the winter season here, we're excited to see what Scrapie can do here as we kick it off in the first step today. And it's a pleasure to be with you guys. My name is Kyle. Feel free to say hello in the chat. I'm going to be with you guys throughout the season here, giving you the coverage of Scrapie's perspective here throughout the TMGL Winter 2021 season. So it's going to be an exciting one coming up here. But guys, it is going to be Scrapie looking for a bit of redemption, I think, going into this one. Obviously, if you guys watched the fall season, Scrapie not having quite the performance he was hoping for in that one, but still, I think he's feeling a lot more confident going into this season. A lot of practice on these tracks and, also preparing for that format, which can be a little bit brutal here, as you've seen that race 6 of the day can be a bit of a devastating one if you don't end the day strong. So I think Scrapie's strategy going into this one was to put a little bit more focus on those races that are going to be later on in the day, and those early races not having quite as much value because the way the format works, you can come out and win the first couple of races in the day, but if you lose that 5th or 6th race, finishing in the back of the pack there, it's just going to be a tough time for you to get enough points to really make it through to the next stage. So it's going to be exciting to see what he can do. On top of that, though, I am very excited as well because, we do have a new car for you guys as well this season. So if you guys haven't seen it, we did preview it on the Lazarus Twitter already. But let's hop in here and take a quick look here before we get started at the new Lazarus 2021 car. So if you guys can't see it here just yet on the track, Scrapie going to be in that new Lazarus 2021 car, looking nice. You've got the Lazarus logo on the back there, and of course, a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors here, XP Sports and Logitech G as well, supporting Scrapie throughout the season here. So excited to have things kicking off here shortly, but it looks like also we are just about ready to get this one started here. It's going to be step 1 of the winter 2021 season, and Scrapie, he is ready to go. We're already going to be hopping into that warm-up phase to see how everybody's feeling, how everybody's looking on this new set of tracks. I'm excited to see what Scrapie can do here as well. I know he's been working hard going into the season, so it's going to be a fun one. If you guys are hanging out in chat, though, I'd love to know what you guys think. How do you guys think Scrapie's going to do in step 1 today? I'm excited to see his performance, but I'm sure you guys know more than anyone else how you think he might perform here. You guys have watched him leading up to the season here. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat, though. What place do you think he's going to get today? Do you have a particular track you think he's going to do really well on in this first step? Be sure to let us know. And appreciate everybody tuning in here as well as we get things started right now. Just the warm-up phase for map number 1 on the day. Obviously, going into it this season, we do have a few new faces as well. So a quick shout out to Mutta. If you guys didn't watch a lot of the relegations, Mutta was one of the strongest performers as one of these newcomers coming into the TMGL this season. So I'm excited to see what he can do as well. Definitely a lot to prove. Some new organizations in the mix as well. So definitely interested to see what these new organizations and their drivers will be able to do here in the new season as well. Right now, if you guys are just tuning in, we're just in the warm-up here for map number 1. It's going to be an interesting one because this is really the true test for everybody to really showcase what they've been doing between Season 1 and going into this Winter 2021 season. Right now, though, it looks like we are ready to get this kicked off. We're going to hop into Scrapie's perspective at the start of the race here. It is going to be an early lead for Scrapie, still fighting amongst the top 5. No clear-cut front runner just yet around the first couple of turns. As you can see, Scrapie, a little bit of an error around that last turn, pushing himself back into the bottom 4 here, but definitely within striking distance of a quick recovery. As you can see, though, Scrapie and Massa both having a little bit of a rough start here on this one, but you know, going into today, I talked to Scrapie a little bit too, and he said, you know, for him, this first map is probably the least important for him because he knows the points are going to play in favor of those who've put the time into the back 3 maps on the day. And so for Scrapie, he said he's not too concerned with how he performs in the first map. He said out of every map, this is probably the least practice time he put in on it. And as you can see here, definitely showing a little bit, but at the end of the day, he's put his attention to the maps where the points matter even more later in the day, so I'm not sure quite where he may place in this first one, but I know Scrapie, with the point system as it is, has his attention on those final 3 maps of the day as kind of his priority to do really well. Starting this one off, though, it is going to be Scrapie kind of just fighting from behind after the first lap here. We'll see if he can recover. Overall, though, it is going to be Carl Jr. leading the pack here along with Papu out in front early on this track. And both drivers we see there in the top 2, even the top 3 there with Kappa now having pretty strong performances in the previous season as well. We'll see if they can keep it up here, as I know there was a few of them that were a little bit close to that cutoff last season as well. As we can see here, though, a bit of recovery being made from Scrapie, trying to catch up to Link here in that 15th spot. For a lot of drivers, though, I would consider map 1 almost a warm-up for a lot of these drivers in some sense of it, because, you know, with the point structure as it is, really anything can happen in those last 3 maps of the day, and any points you may gather in this first map really won't have too much weight in terms of your overall performance on the day. Those last 2 tracks of the day really going to be the biggest impact of all, because that's when you can lose the majority of your points if you're not performing well. So for Scrapie, I think his goal is to just get warmed up here in the first couple of maps and then really showcase what he can do to hold on to his points here in the final tracks of the day. I think that was his biggest struggle. If you guys watched the previous season for Scrapie, he just wasn't able to close out the day with those race 6s being the death of him in a lot of ways for his chances to get into the playoffs in the previous season. He was so close, but had a few 6th race of the day performances where he just went under that top 8 at the last minute and unfortunately wasn't able to make it as far as he wanted to. But, you know, realistically, Scrapie's a driver who's been able to showcase a lot of strength in the past, even looking at in the relegations getting 2nd place, only to Mutta there in the overall points during the combine. So definitely showing a lot of improvement as he has prepared for this season. Already moving from 16th back into 14th as well, getting a nice little bit of recovery. It looks like Mutta maybe had either a disconnection or some sort of issue to where he will be taking the DNF here in track number 1. Meanwhile, Gwen will be dropping into 15th. Scrapie looking to catch up to Link here and potentially find himself that 13th position. Overall though, Scrapie about 8 seconds here behind the leader. Not going to have too much going his way so far, but we'll see if there's a chance to get a bit of recovery and some extra points on the table to work with as we move forward. Also, not sure if it's an error on the server side or not, but it looks like the map count isn't actually counting up the laps, but I believe they are on lap number 3 here, guys. Not sure what the disconnect might be on that side, but we are going to be right around lap number 3 right now, even though it does say 1 out of 6 there for some reason. Right now, though, Scrapie just trying to keep his positioning here. Gwen catching up a little bit. Link, though, pulling ahead. Scrapie a little bit sloppy around the last couple of turns. Loses just about 2.5 seconds off of his overall time. Gwen, though, looking for the pass on this next turn, and Scrapie, unfortunately there, is going to drift right into the wall a little bit and put himself down into that 14th position here. Kappa, though, does go down and out potentially here on this race as well. He's going to be just behind Scrapie with another error himself on the last couple of turns. As we can see, though, definitely a challenging map for the season. A lot of drivers having some issues maintaining their ground here, and I would say as you compare this to some of the maps we saw in the previous fall season, I would definitely say this one seems to be a little bit more difficult than a lot of the maps we saw. So it looks like it will be a 14th finish here for Scrapie in this first track of the day. Obviously, not quite where he would have wanted to land. You could tell the practice wasn't there on that first map, but for Scrapie, like I said, his focus is on those maps where points are at risk, and this week, this is a map where that wasn't the case, so I don't think he's going to be too disappointed in terms of his performance here on map number 1. He's really looking to have those big performances in those last 3 tracks of the day. We're going to go ahead and get prepared, though, to hop in for our second track of the day. There's going to be 6 in total, and we'll see if he can find his way all the way through. If you guys recall last season, though, I believe Scrapie did have a pretty good placement in the first 2 weeks as well. It only kind of slipped towards the end of the season, so I definitely think that Scrapie is going to be in a good position to perform well here as the day progresses. He showed at the beginning of last season as well. He was able to have a strong start. He just wasn't quite able to close it out, but going into this next one, we'll see what Scrapie is capable of to try and pick up some ground. Only 3 points in that first track of the day, but obviously a lot of time here to recover on these next 5 tracks. We're going to be going into Wall Rider as our second track of the day. As you can see there as well, we've got a channel prediction going on. What do you guys think? Is Scrapie going to be in the top 8 or bottom 8 for this second track of the day? We'll see how map number 2 goes, but we are going to be hopping in shortly with Wall Rider. Before we do, though, taking another look here at that new Lazarus vehicle here. Quick shout out to our partners as well, XP Sports and Logitech G, guys. Be sure to check them out as they are amazing supporters of what we're able to do, not only with Scrapie, but with our entire team here at Lazarus. So as we get ready for track number 2, it is going to be Scrapie warming up here, getting comfortable. As you can see, a little shaky around those turns, but definitely some good time here on the warm-up to just get a little bit extra comfortability before things get kicked off here, as this is going to be, from what I've seen in some of their warm-ups, a very difficult track for a lot of these drivers as well. I think there's a lot of room for potential mistakes to be made here, so it definitely opens up the opportunity for drivers who've really put in the time to showcase what they're capable of here on a map like Wall Rider. So it looks like there is going to be a potential pause coming out here on the match. So I believe there may be a connection issue where they might go ahead and reset. I'm not sure if they're going to count this one or not. So the race countdown did go live, but we'll go ahead and stick on with Scrapie here just in case. But I think they are going to go ahead and reset it. A lot of the drivers definitely seem to be functioning like that's the case. So looks like we are going to have some form of a reset coming up here shortly on this map. Not sure what the connection issues are. I think it might be on the end of Mudda, who disconnected during map number 1. And I believe they are just waiting on him to reconnect here. So we'll see how that could potentially play into things. I know Mudda not necessarily having the best start here to his performance, but looks like we're going to go ahead and have a quick pause here while we wait for everybody to get reconnected. All right, here we go. We are going to be back into it here. It looks like everybody has now reconnected and we're ready to go. Let's hop on with Scrapie as we continue forward here. This is going to be track number 2 of the day, Wall Rider, to see what can be done for Scrapie to move his way up the leaderboards. Now with everybody reconnected, the real question is how will they perform here under the pressure on map number 2? We saw just in those warm-up laps a lot of mistakes coming out from many drivers. This seems to be a very challenging map overall, but nonetheless, this is the TMGL, so a lot of these guys have put in that time and effort to really learn this map, and we'll see who can pull it off. Right now it is going to be Carl Jr. leading the way to kick it off. Scrapie a little shaky around that last turn, loses just a little bit of ground, about half a second off of his total time. Still going to be in the middle of the pack here though. These wide turns though, they are going to be a true test for a lot of these drivers. I feel like there's a lot of ground that can be gained or lost in those turns, so we'll see what Scrapie's able to do with them. Scrapie though looking a little bit shaky here on this turn, has to kill a little bit off of his time just to recover and prevent that from being a little bit too far out of control. As you can see though, Scrapie still right behind the middle of the pack here, sitting right around that 13th, 14th position. But he is definitely within striking distance if he can find a way to shave off some time here. As you can see, going through the midsection of the track, it is going to be a couple drivers having some issues here around that last turn. And I believe it was going to be Link there who fell down and out on it. Not a great way to keep things rolling for himself. As you can see though, Scrapie continuing to maintain, starting to pick up ground onto Rialu and Tween around the next turn as well. Making a good recovery back into the middle of the pack here, and now potentially within that striking distance of a top 8. As you can see, just a few slight maneuvering errors around the turns, costing him to lose just a bit of time. If he can clean that up though, he's really in a good position to maintain his ground and potentially get some passes in here in this next lap as well. Currently it will be Bren and Carl Jr. out in front. Mudda this time around though in 3rd place, very close behind them. Massa going to have an issue there around the last turn. He's going to fall down about 3 positions overall. Scrapie now moves into 10th place and very, very close to that top 8 position. Right now, though, it is going to be Scrapie still trying to make up a little bit of ground here onto Rialu and Kappa right in front of them. Still, Bren will be maintaining that lead here. Rialu pulling a little bit further ahead of Scrapie here, though, but Massa does make a mistake that takes him down a little bit. Kappa going down 5 positions as well. It's going to be Scrapie currently in 9th here. As we can see though, Scrapie looking to make up even more ground here and push for that top 8 finish on this second track of the day. As you can see, a little bit shaky around that turn, recovers nicely though, and Rialu still within that striking distance. We'll see if the recovery is here for Scrapie to get the job done. There's actually going to be a mistake from Yvonne who slips down into 9th position. Scrapie now in 8th as he moves forward here on Wall Rider. Mutta making up some ground as well on those top 3 drivers. Bren's still out in that lead. And Scrapie trying to strike quickly here onto Rialu for the potential 7th place position. Rialu, though, doing a good job of maintaining his time and keeping in front of Scrapie. Scrapie, though, has to be careful, doesn't want to have any last-minute errors that could cost him this position. 8th place, not too bad for points for a second race of the day. No points at risk either, but it's good to get into that mentality of getting top 8 every race as early on in the day as you can. And right now, Scrapie doing a good job of at least maintaining this position overall. As you can see, Scrapie looking pretty clean here around the turns. Not a whole lot of time gained, but nothing really lost there either. Rialu still right out in front of him as they narrow closer to the end here of map number 2. With time ticking, though, they've got to be careful. One mistake here could cost you quite a bit of time, and as you can see, it is going to be a little bit of a ding on the wall, and Scrapie's going to fall down to 10th just off of that alone. And potentially even 11th here as Affy gets in the pass as well. Now Scrapie fighting for that top 8 to be back in his hands here in the remainder of this race. Unfortunately, just one small mistake like that can cost you everything. If this was a points loss race, that could have been the end of all of his points here, but fortunately, it is going to be early enough in the day where there's no points to be lost here, but it will prevent him from gaining more than he hoped to here in this situation if he can't find a way to recover. Affy, though, he's going to go down and out. Yvonne as well. I'm not sure. Oh, they will hit the finish line, it looks like, potentially here. I'm not sure if everyone just went down and out there, or we will be just hopping in with these last few drivers. So there you have it. It is going to be, looks like a 11th place finish there for Scrapie. It was pretty close down to the wire, but unfortunately just not quite enough to get the job done. But he does manage to get ahead of Gwen there at the last minute. Scrapie now going to be sitting in 13th, tied with Gwen overall. So right now, it is going to be Scrapie sitting in about 13th position, but still ample time to recover. So we'll see what he can do in these last 4 maps of the day. If you guys are just tuning in, appreciate everybody coming in and showing your support here today. Be sure to follow the channel if you guys haven't to show your love and support here for Scrapie. And of course, be sure to check us out on Twitter as well, at Lazarus, if you guys want to follow the team here and show some love to us as well. Right now, though, we're just going to be getting ready for track number 3 on the day. It's been a pleasure to have you guys with us so far. A quick shout out to our sponsors as well, XP Sports and Logitech G, for showing amazing support to Scrapie here throughout the season. So we are going to be hopping into our 3rd map of the season. Excited to see if Scrapie can have his first big showing of the day here on this one, as things are going to start to heat up here the further along we get on the day, because points will be at risk as we gear up for these final 3 maps on the day. So this is really a good one to establish a little bit stronger base on his overall points and get that confidence a little bit higher as we go into the later portion of the day, where top 8 is basically the only place you want to be. Anything in the bottom 8 is a huge risk of points in those final maps of the day. And if you guys saw Scrapie last season, there were some unfortunate ones where he went down in 9th place very late in some 6th map of the day situations. So obviously Scrapie going into this one has put a lot of attention on those final 2 maps of the day, because he doesn't want to see his points lost at the end of the day, as we saw in the fall season happen several times. So definitely a good approach, I think, from Scrapie. A lot of these drivers are going to be considering a potential change here, I'm sure, in the season to accommodate those points differences, because right now it's really a position with the points where the first map of the day really doesn't matter too much, even the second to an extent, only really provides you a buffer if you're able to perform in those final races of the day. So we'll see exactly what is in store here from all the drivers. But right now, taking a look at the overall standings real quick, Carl Jr. and Pack definitely starting off on the right foot here in step number 1. Bren and Rialu not too far behind as well. And as you can see, Scrapie currently in a 3-way tie with Gwen and Link for that 13th position. As you can see now, it is going to be half of the points at risk as we go into it here with Scrapie for our next race of the day. This one is going to be on Leap of Faith for map number 3. Starting this one off, Scrapie, he knows what's on the line now. These last 4 maps going to be much more impactful on the overall leaderboards than the first 2. Right now, we are in half points being lost status here for the bottom 8 on this map. Scrapie off to a decent start here though, not having too bad of a time. Currently sitting right in that middle of the pack, no clear positioning just yet. He started around 4th, but as we can see around the last couple of turns has fallen a little bit behind, but still definitely in the fight here. Scrapie, though, unfortunately, around that last turn, a little bit of a struggle, puts him just in the back of the pack here, but still close enough to recover and still find himself a decent position. But he's going to have to do it quickly here as time is already ticking against him. Right now, though, it is going to be Kappa and Pack out in front, but still this middle of the pack very close to one another. Scrapie just doing what he can here to claw back into a comfortable position, because right now it's definitely not the start he was hoping for here on map number 3. As you can see though, Scrapie definitely picking up his speed here, has already recovered a bit of that lost ground, and now as we go into it, he's going to be looking to see what he can do here to push that even further as we continue forward. A lot of pressure, though, being felt here on map number 3 from many of these drivers in a similar to Scrapie position. But as you can see, Scrapie, that's going to be a double pass there from 16th now into the middle of the pack. And this is where Scrapie, I think, has a lot of potential to be successful. Compared to a lot of these drivers, I think he has a really good ability to recover lost time. So even when Scrapie does have those errors, we've seen him in the past be able to pick up the pace and catch right back up and get himself in the fight. And that's exactly what's happening right now. He was in 16th and now is within striking distance of that 11th position. Rialu just barely out in front of him here. And as you can see on the last couple of turns, the pass will go his way as well. Has to be careful, a little shaky around that last turn, but still maintains his positioning. As we can see though, Scrapie doing a great job of still fighting his way up into a good position here. 10th now, not quite where he wants to be, but getting very close to it. Arl has a mistake occur around the corner there. It's going to be Scrapie now moving in towards that 9th position. Scrapie with the double pass over the last jump as well, moves into the top 8. A brilliant recovery so far here on Leap of Faith, and you can see this is where Scrapie has put in the time and definitely studied up on what he needs to do here. You can just see so much recovery coming through on these last couple of laps from Scrapie that now he has a chance to finish very confidently, even with the slow start he had here on this map. Scrapie, though, lap after lap, showing his ability to overtake the competition here and really put up a solid performance. We'll see if he can keep it up here. 8th position, definitely not a safe spot to be. One error can cost you this position and, of course, that top 8 standing on the track. But right now, Scrapie, he's done a brilliant job of recovery. Now he just has to maintain and try and hold on to it. Going around the last couple of turns here. Things still looking good for Scrapie to maintain. Arl, though, very close behind, but Scrapie starting to make some headway on catching up to Mutta here in that 7th position. Overall, it is going to be a tough position to try and hold on to, though 8th means everybody behind you is desperate to grab that spot away from you. So Scrapie can't be too comfortable just yet. But as you can see, he continues to maintain lap after lap a very strong time here. It does make you wonder, though, where he might be if that first lap wasn't quite as shaky. He could potentially be out in front here. Mutta, though, losing a bit of ground. Scrapie definitely having some nuances to his approach on this map that I don't think a lot of the other drivers have, because he seems to be recovering a remarkable amount of time here in what he's been able to do in that just a couple short laps that he went from 16th to 8th. Mutta, though, still going to be slightly out in front. Carl Jr., though, has his eyes on that 8th position, so Scrapie definitely needs to be careful. As you can see, Mutta and Papu very, very close within striking distance now for Scrapie. The pressure definitely on all of these drivers in the middle of the pack. The question now is who will maintain that top 8 when it's all said and done here. As you can see, finishing out another lap as they go into it. Scrapie trying to get another pass in here, potentially onto Mutta or Papu, but it's going to be a careful approach here as well, because one mistake could cost him his 8th position. He doesn't want to get too greedy in trying to go for a pass to where it could potentially cost him his overall positioning here. Right now, though, it is neck and neck between all of these drivers in the middle of the pack. About 5 of them within 1 second of one another here as the pressure is on. Mutta and Papu very, very close in front of them as well. It's going to be Bren holding on to his position. But as you can see around the corner, it's going to be Scrapie going in for the potential pass here. He's so tightly knit between these drivers around the corner. Papu gets past, but Mutta keeps his ground just in front of him. But still, this is a very, very good attempt here from Scrapie to make up even more ground here. But Scrapie, he hits the wall, and that is an unfortunate situation to be in, and that will cost him the top 8 positioning he had. Unfortunately, that will be a bit of a bitter end here on the track for Scrapie, falling from 7th to 13th in the final lap, and it's got to be a bit of a bitter one for him. Unfortunately for Scrapie, though, he's not going to gain any points on this one. He gains 3 for his position, but loses them on the points. It's got to be a disappointing one, though. Unfortunately, it will be Scrapie still sitting right around that 13th position, not gaining what he was hoping for there. Actually, I believe he moved down to about 14th overall here. Not quite as bad as it could have been, but those are the ones that you really got to hope he's able to pull through here in these last 3 races of the day. If you guys are just tuning in, though, appreciate everybody showing your support here for Scrapie as we continue forward. We're out at about the halfway point here of the day. 3 more maps to go, and Scrapie definitely in need of a strong performance here going into the final 3 races of the day. We'll see if he can do it, though. I definitely have the faith that he can get this one done, but right now it is going to be a very tough one. Scrapie having a bit of a rough start to the day, but I think the recovery is in store here. Scrapie, as you could see in that last one as well, he showed a lot of successful moments. It's just that one small error that can really cost you so much in your overall performance. And Scrapie, this time around, he needs a big performance here in one of these final 3 races of the day, and he needs to hold on to those points more importantly as well. And that's where he's going to be at risk, is if he starts already step number 1 in a tough position, it's one of those things where it's already be that much harder to recover. So as we can see, this next map, though, 4th of the day, will be Gap Jumper, and Scrapie has to come out swinging here in this one to really show what he's capable of. Scrapie so far in the day hasn't had a top 8 finish in the first 3. As we saw in the previous, though, he has the ability and the speed to get it done. It's just these unfortunate smaller errors stacking up against him and putting him in a difficult position now. It is going to be the fourth map here, though, of the day, guys. If you're just tuning in, a quick shout to our partners as well, Logitech G and XP Sports. Be sure to check them both out, as they are amazing supporters of what we're able to do with Scrapie and our team Lazarus as well. Right now, though, Scrapie, he's warmed up, he's ready to go. Let's show him some love here as we get ready for map number 4, Gap Jumper, to see what Scrapie can do to potentially make that jump back up the leaderboards. Kicking it off, though, Scrapie right in the middle of it. Not quite out in front, though. It's going to be Papoo and Pack kind of out towards the front here early on. Right now, though, it is going to be Scrapie, still fighting for that early positioning here, trying to get out in front. The early pressure definitely being felt here by all of the drivers, especially those sitting towards the back 8. As you can see on the overall points as well, Pack out in front with 48 points, currently in the lead here as well, trading back and forth with Gwen. Going around the turn here, as you can see, Scrapie looking very clean around it, picks up a little bit of ground here and swings his way into the top 8. And as we've seen from Scrapie, he does have the times to do it. It's just a matter of making sure there's no small mistakes that cost him here. And so Scrapie, he is going to be in the top 8 here, but it's still very close amongst the middle of the pack. You can see him trading between 8th and 9th position pretty aggressively right now. Still very, very close here. Only one driver overall making a mistake would be Kappa here, who's back with about 3 seconds off the leader. Scrapie, though, losing just a little bit of ground here, still fighting for that 8th position. As you can see, starting to recover it a bit, but has to be cautious here, as he is starting to lose a little bit of ground from the middle of the pack. The turns, though, seems to be the best opportunity for recovery for Scrapie, picking up quite a bit of ground around that last one. Now Scrapie looks to make his swing here for a position in the top 8. Tween and Carl Jr. right in front of him fighting for it. But this is one Scrapie surely needs to have a top 8 on, as he has yet to see one on the day overall so far, and that can make things a little bit scary going into those final 2 tracks of the day. Overall, though, not too bad of a position to try and fight back from. As we saw in the last one, he was able to get from 16th all the way back up to 7th before unfortunately going down in that 13th overall. But Scrapie trying to find that way to recovery here. As we've seen, those midsection turns do tend to be favorable for him, I think, especially on that wide turn around the walls as we're going into it. This one seems to be one of the biggest spots here on the map for Scrapie to get some recovery on, and you can see this time around he does it yet again as well. So definitely some good positioning here coming out from Scrapie, definitely chipping away properly as he needs to at the leaderboard. You can see, too, a few changes going into this lap as well from Scrapie, cleaning things up even more each and every lap, and it just goes to show you he's a driver that's not really afraid to make changes on the fly, and in this kind of environment, that could be the difference in multiple positioning in your overall finish on a track. Right now, though, still not quite where he wants to be. He needs that top 8 overall here to really have a chance at pushing back strong in these final 2 on the day. Not quite there just yet, but as you can see, the speed has been picked up a little bit as he fights around 9th position right now. Now it is going to be up to Scrapie to show us what he can do to potentially swing into the top 8, going into the wide turns here again. This is his recovery zone right now, and he's shown every single lap he's been able to pick up some time here in this section. has to be careful though. Rialu seems to be swinging for the pass as well. Unfortunately, Scrapie, though, not quite able to get a pass out of it just yet, but it is neck and neck here between Link, Rialu, and Scrapie, but Carl Jr. is still the one that holds on to the 8th position overall. The pressure definitely being felt, though, as Scrapie makes a swing for the top 8 here, trying to catch up to Carl Jr. Him and Rialu making a lot of recovery around these last couple of turns, but it's not over just yet. The pressure is on everyone here in this mid-pack section. Scrapie currently in 9th, but it's not good enough just yet to be safe. Carl Jr. has to be passed here in order to make the necessary impact to close this one out strong. Scrapie so close, but not close enough just yet to getting it done. Going into this wide turn, Scrapie's had so much opportunity for recovery. He's going to have to do it again here and now, though, in order to close it out. But there's an error. It's going to be a driver falling down, potentially behind Scrapie here, but Carl still manages to maintain the distance and that 8th position. Scrapie, though, in the danger zone right now. 9th is not the place to be. He needs to get a top 8 here, but Link hot on his tail as well is going to make this one very difficult to hold on to. Narrowing closer to the finish line here, it's going to be Scrapie in a very tough position. Everybody wanting to fight for that 8th spot that Carl Jr. has at the moment, and 4 drivers really in a position to potentially take it here. Right now, though, it is going to be Scrapie looking to gain some momentum around these next couple of turns. Unfortunately, not going to go quite his way here. Carl Jr. comfortably seems to be holding on to it. It's not over just yet, but it's looking like it could be very soon. Link not looking good around that last turn. He's going to fall behind, and now Scrapie has to go in for the recovery here and now. There's not much time left to work with, but unfortunately, that will be where it ends. Around the last turn, not quite able to get the job done. A half second off of 8th won't be quite enough, and that will be another one close, but not close enough here for Scrapie. That's going to conclude, though, map number 4. It will be 5 gained, but 3 lost here for Scrapie, who does sit currently in 12th going into the big final 2 races of the day. It's going to be interesting to see what Scrapie can do here, because this is where the real competition starts. Everything counts in these final 2 races. It's not losing half your points, it's losing all of your points here in the final 2 races, and this is what all of the drivers have really put in that time and effort to prepare for. This is what separates the men from the boys here, guys. This is going to be the high impact races for the day. So we'll see what Scrapie has in store for us going into this season. He said these 2 races were his main focus. Those last 2 each day is really where he felt he could put in the time to have an increased effort going into this competition. So we're going to see if he has what it takes to get the job done as we go into our 5th map of the day. It's going to be up to Scrapie to prove himself here and potentially find a good way to close out the day. And as you can see, a lot of drivers have built up a hefty amount of points here. Pack on 68, Carl Jr. with 50 points, Bren and Papu sitting pretty comfortably around that 40 mark, and Mutta at 30. So the top 5 very comfortably up in front there, but one bad race out of these last 2, and all of that work they've done on the day is going to be completely erased. So Scrapie, this is actually a great position for him to be in, because if he can have a good final 2 races of the day, it can basically erase the bad start he had to the day and showcase a really good placement for his overall points. Right now, though, guys, we are going to be in about a 5-minute warm-up as we prepare for the final 2 tracks of the day, just giving everybody a moment to take a quick breather and really mentally prepare for what's in store for them, because there's so much at stake in these final 2 tracks of the day that you really have to be ready to bring your A game here. And for Scrapie, this is his moment to shine. He's had a lot of potential shown early on in the day, obviously not closing out a couple of those races where he had hope due to some last-minute errors, but, you know, this is where it really counts. These final 2 tracks of the day, can be the difference between last place and first place in some cases, depending on how everybody performs. So it's going to be a very big moment here for Scrapie to prove himself as we go into map number 6 here in just a few short moments. Before we do though, guys, be sure to follow the channel here if you haven't, to show your support for Scrapie. Even if you want to throw him a sub as well, definitely appreciate all the support from everyone tuning in here today. It's a pleasure to have you guys with us as we continued forward. It is going to be 2 more maps remaining on the day, and hopefully we can see at least one of them be a really strong performer, if not both, for Scrapie. It would be great to see him have a big start to the season here in Step 1, but we're only just at the beginning of the season here, guys. 6 weeks in total of the regular season, and of course, we'll have some of the postseason action for you as well. Hopefully, Scrapie will be able to make it through this time around, as last season he did finish right around that 12th position. While we are waiting here on the break, we'll throw up a quick little snapshot for you of some of the past performances here from Scrapie, just taking a look here at some of his career placings. And as you can see there, TMGL Winter 2020, he was the runner-up there, second place for him. Fall 2020 in the previous season that just happened, unfortunately only fell in 12th position just due to a lot of last-minute race 6 blunders that cost a little bit of overall performance on his side of things. But going into it, you had the fall show match where he actually did really well in that, getting second place. So, and of course in the relegations, he was looking really good as well in the Combine there, second place in the Combine as well. So Scrapie definitely in a good position here going into it to really prove what he's got here in this season. But we're going to hop back into the warm-up as everybody's getting ready. We've got about 2.5 minutes before we kick things off going into this next race, and it's going to be a big one for Scrapie, currently sitting at 9 points and tied for that 12th place position overall. He's got a lot of work to do in these last 2 races, but there's definitely the opportunity here for him to do it. And even in the warm-up here, he's just getting ready to go and getting that confidence he needs to have a strong performance here to close out the day. Let's hop back in though, guys, and see how Scrapie's preparing here during the warm-up time that they've got. Just about 2 minutes on the clock though. As you can see, Scrapie and Papu here both just getting comfortable on the track, and this is a great use of the warm-up time. Some drivers use it to take a break, but Scrapie makes a good call here, I think, to just stay fresh and prepared going into this one, because once you get that sort of comfortable muscle memory behind you on a map like this, it becomes almost second nature for yourself. And if you can have that swing your way going into the start of a race, it's only going to put you that much further ahead if you've already got that mental image of what you need to be doing throughout the map ready to go. If you guys are tuning in though, I'd love to know what you guys think. Where do you think Scrapie is going to finish it out for the day? What position do you think he'll be able to potentially find his way to in these final 2 races? I myself, I think he's going to finish. I think he's going to finish in the top 8. I don't think he's going to be first place overall, but I do think Scrapie is going to finish into the top 8 here today. I think we are going to see one of these last 2 races go pretty well for him. But I'm excited to see what he can do nonetheless. And this is where Scrapie, when I talked to him going into the season, he said these 2 races are where he's putting in the most attention this season, because if you guys saw in the fall season, the last 2 races ultimately are what ended up costing him a chance at that top 8. So I think for Scrapie, it's the right call, because realistically, if you get last place the first 2 races of the day, but you do great in the final 3, you're still going to make it into the top 8, and you're still going to be in a great position to go into the finals. And that's where the point system, I think, is very rewarding to those who put in the time, not only to their craft, but on the right maps for the right times as well, because not every map you're going to see every single day is going to be equal importance to the points these drivers can obtain. So really putting in the proper time on the tracks they need to is going to matter greatly in the way the format works for the season. 10 seconds though from the kickoff here on map number 5. Let's see if he can get it done. It's going to be a tough one here. 9 points going into it, but the recovery has to begin now. So Scrapie, let's see what he can do. It's going to be top 8 or bust here on the final 2 maps of the day. Scrapie is ready to go, though. As we get this one underway around the initial few turns, it is going to be Scrapie out in front already, looking a little bit strong in this front of the pack section. A little shaky around those last few turns, but still maintaining that top 8 presence here. We'll see if he can hold on to it. Scrapie, though, unfortunately, going to be starting already from behind a bit. Banks right into the wall and will be down into the back of the pack here. Not the way you want to start off this type of race, but still, there is ample time to recover. Scrapie already with his first pass here, moving past Gwen. And now, this is where the opportunity will be for Scrapie to recover. You can see already a little bit frustrated from that early performance that he had on the first lap as well, and he's already making that effort to try and get his way back into the middle of the pack, and surprisingly, he's already made up quite a bit of ground, and this is where Scrapie, as I mentioned earlier in the day, has some advantages over these drivers. He knows how to recover time very comfortably in a lot of these maps, and you can see he's already worked his way back towards the middle of the pack, and that kind of impact with 5 more laps to go could be all he needs to sneak his way back into the top 8. As you can see, Scrapie continuing to clean things up. He is already within striking distance of a good position. Another pass on to Spam here, keeping the pace on his side. If Scrapie can keep this up, he's going to be in a really nice position to move into this midsection of the pack and potentially even strike onto a top 8 soon. Far from over, though. Scrapie has to continue strong. It's not a situation where he can afford to have any small mistakes. But as you can see, these midsections here, he's able to clean it up. And if he's able to do what he did in the previous run-through, he could be in a great position to get quite a few passes going his way now. Going around the last couple of turns, it is going to be Scrapie continuing to maintain a nice speed here. Currently in 13th position, not a comfortable one just yet, but definitely ample time to move into the top 8 if he can find a way through. Right now, the speed being picked up just a little bit here from Scrapie. He's finding a bit of recovery. Not quite enough just yet, though. As you can see around the last turn, though, Scrapie picking up a little bit of time, not quite as much as he was hoping for, though. Only about a half second off of that 8th position, though. Definitely a doable one here. You can see it looks like Tween there having some issues to go down and out. Now only 4 spots away here for Scrapie, and you can see he is aggressively pushing for that positioning. Now moving up into 11th. Kappa goes down as well, and it's going to be 10th now on the board for Scrapie. 2 spots away from recovering fully into the top 8 from a definitely tough start here on this race. And this is where it all counts here. Scrapie has to really push himself to the limit in order to get this one done, but now the potential is definitely in his hands to find a top 8 finish here. Still, time to get this one done. Scrapie looking for every opportunity that he can to make the impact he needs to move into a top 8 position here. A little bit shaky on that last turn. Unfortunately, loses him just a hair of ground, but still comfortably within striking distance of the top 8. 0.12 seconds away as we go around that last turn. Link looking a little bit shaky here. Scrapie with the opportunity to get the pass on to him very soon. Mutta and Spam not too far in front of him as well. Scrapie making a huge boost of momentum here for himself around these last couple of turns. This 8th place position now definitely in striking distance. Very, very close here around the last couple of turns, but Scrapie works his way into the top 8. This is a chance to get it done here. The pressure definitely on. It's so close here, the back and forth amongst the top 8, but Scrapie, he's still in a position where this could be his. Now going into this section, Scrapie has to be as clean as possible. All he has to do is maintain this position or better. One false move, he could fall all the way behind, but right now, Scrapie just needs to maintain here and not let himself fall into that 9th position. Spam, though, comes in for the pass. Scrapie falling a hair behind here, but still has the time to recover going around the next few corners. But right now, 9th place position, not a safe spot to be. 10th now as well with Tween in the mix. Going around these turns, Scrapie has to recover just a bit of time. 10th place not going to cut it here. As they narrow closer to the finish line, Scrapie needs something big to go his way here, and that's exactly what may just happen here. Scrapie now fighting back for that 8th position. It's so close, neck and neck amongst the center of the pack here. It's all going to be down to the wire. It's so close between these drivers. Scrapie a little bit shaky on the fall. Doesn't let it slow him down too much, though. But still not in 8th just yet. These 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th drivers are all so close to each other that it's almost impossible to tell. But Scrapie, it's going to be a big blunder from Scrapie there, and that may have just cost him the top 8. That's going to be an unfortunate one here. Scrapie, you can see just a slight error there is going to cost him. He banks too far on that turn, and unfortunately, again, it happens on the last lap. And he will go down. That's going to be a complete point wipe for Scrapie here. And unfortunate timing for that. Mutta losing all of his points as well. Rialu, Link, Gwen, Scrapie, Affy, Yvonne, and Kappa all in the bottom 8 as they move to a complete reset. As we can see, though, Map 6 still a good opportunity for a top 8 finish here. Because really, at the end of the day, Map 8 could completely change everything. There's a strong chance that if Scrapie does well on this map, he could still pull off a top 8 finish on the day. So, Map 6, this is really his chance to bring it all home and have a confident finish on the day. If he were to win Map 6, there is actually a chance he could even get top 5 on the day, depending on how the other drivers in the top 8 perform. But there's already some very, very strong looking points totals here if we look at the overall total. If Pack were to maintain a top 8 in this final race, there's a strong chance he pulls 100 points today. That is a big first day. Bren and Carl Jr. looking pretty confident on their point totals if they can close it out as well with the top 8. Final map of the day, though, will be Bookcase to see what can be done here from Scrapie to close out the day. We've got a minute here of warm-up before we hop into it. Let's get some support here for Scrapie in the chat. The final race of the day. We'll see if he can truly push himself to the limits here and make something big happen for himself in this final one of the day. Scrapie currently tied for 13th, though, with Affy. Everybody who lost all of their points, though, in that last race is at 5 or less. So, really, if he could get a strong performance in this race, there's a very strong chance he can pull off maybe 7th or 8th on the day. However, those overall points totals will matter at the end of the season, and Scrapie finishing with a less than 10 on the day is going to be a tough start to the season here, especially considering, you know, you have Pac, Bren, Carl Jr., and Papu all potentially with 50 or more in their first step of the season. So it's going to put all of them in a really comfortable position if any of those 4 can finish in the top 8, which I would say my guess would be at least 2 of them will be able to hold on to their points for the day out of those 4 currently out in the lead. But guys, it is go time here for our final race of the day. final map as well, going to be Bookcase here to see what Scrapie can do to close out the day strong. Here we go. Scrapie looking for no mistakes this time around. We'll see if he can get it done. Around the first few turns here, Scrapie off to a good start here so far on Bookcase. We'll see if he can keep it up. Fortunately, a little bit of an error around that last turn. I'm not sure what went wrong. Looked like almost a bit of lag or desync there. Maybe just an improper movement. I'm not sure what happened there. It looked like he almost stalled out a little bit though. But Scrapie, unfortunately, going to be in the back of the pack at the start here in this race. We'll see if he can recover though. As you can see, already a quick couple of passes here. And what a turn was that? I'm not sure if he was intentionally doing that there. But Scrapie going for some flashy moves, moves himself from 16th to 14th pretty quickly. That's going to be lap number 1 already completed. As we can see though, it's going to be Scrapie sitting in a pretty interesting position here. I'm not sure what that move was though. In that last section of the track here, I'm actually interested to see if he's going to attempt that again, because that was actually a pretty unique move that I don't think any other driver was really taking that approach here, but it seemed to actually get him a little bit of recovery, and Scrapie in his position, recovery is the name of the game here in this final race of the day, not only for his overall points, but his positioning on this track as well. Not really the best starting overall. As we go into it here, though, let's see if Scrapie goes for the same approach here again, because I actually really liked his approach this last time around, and this time around he's actually just going to take it a little bit smoother. But Scrapie, I don't know what he's doing in that section, but he may have found a way to cut a lot of time that nobody has yet, and this actually could be a game changer for Scrapie here in this final track. Moving all the way from 16th into 9 already. Pack also down and out into last place with 82 points. There's a great opportunity for Scrapie to put up a big impact race here. Scrapie though, it's not over just yet. 9th, not a place where you could be too comfortable, and really throughout the track you can't get too comfortable as well. One small mistake can push you right out of the top 8. Scrapie though, comfortably working his way now into the top 8, and as we go into that section on the drop down here, this is what's the most unique, I think, about Scrapie's approach. He seems to have something figured out in this section that gives him speed that not many other drivers are able to pick up. As you can see coming out of it, it's going to be another bit of time gained here from Scrapie, as he's currently working his way potentially into the top 6 here now. And this is a really unique position for Scrapie to be in. After that start, I wasn't quite sure how this one was going to pan out, but after seeing how Scrapie approaches that final section of track here on Bookcase, there's a very strong potential for him to do well if he can maintain this kind of consistency. It would also be interesting to see just potentially what happens if one of these drivers out in the lead falls behind as well. And as you can see, the biggest implication on the leaderboard right now is how many drivers with a lot of points are certainly not in a great position right now. You've got Pack with 82 and 14th, Bren with 61 and 13th. They could lose all their points here. As you can see, Scrapie in this section again, continuing to do a little bit of work here and continuing to come out of it strong, and this is actually, I believe, 5th place now for Scrapie. And that it will be 5th place currently for Scrapie here as they continue forward. Scrapie maintaining and recovering ground, and right now things are really looking good for Scrapie to potentially even have a shot at a top 3 if he continues strong. Going around these turns, you can tell this is a map where Scrapie has definitely put in the time and effort, and it's really showing here in the final race of the day. From 16th to 4th place from 16th actually now into 3rd place. It's been a remarkable recovery to see unfold. It's not quite over just yet, so I don't want to speak too soon, but right now Scrapie has shown already a very impressive recovery here. Going into this section, though, it is going to be Scrapie looking to maintain that 3rd place position if he can. Has to make sure he's not too shaky around the final turn. Wants to maintain his ground, but still maintain a comfortable position here as well. And right now, he does slide into 2nd coming out of the turn, but unfortunately doesn't maintain the speed he needs to, but still not a bad position to be in 4th place overall. And now the pressure's on just to maintain the consistency here. He doesn't need to do anything flashy. He just needs to make sure he doesn't let himself fall outside of the top 8 here. And overall, he's going to be in a decent position to finish the day, especially considering how many large points are on the table in that bottom 8. If you look down below, so many points could be lost here by drivers who had impeccable starts to the day. It could all be lost here in that final race, and this is where playing to the format has its advantages if Scrapie's able to pull this off. Scrapie, though, just needs to maintain that comfortability here in the final laps of the day here. Right now, currently sitting in that 4th place position, about 2.5 seconds in front of Kappa as well. You couldn't be happier with where he is right now, but it's not over just yet. Scrapie, around the last turn, tries to get a little bit too flashy there and does cost him a little bit of momentum, but still, he's going to hold on to that 3rd place position here and potentially close it out that way. And there you have it. Scrapie closes out the day. He loses 3rd, but he gets 4th. That is a big recovery for Scrapie on the day. And look at the points lost. Pack completely wiped off the board. Bren, Massa wiped completely. Papu wiped completely. Only driver over 50 to maintain their points was Carl Jr., who will be the winner of the day. But Scrapie, let's see how this panned out for him. 6th place overall. You've got to hand it to him. That's not a bad way to end the day considering how the day started. So definitely a big shout out to Scrapie for finding a way to close out this first day with a bit more of confidence. Carl Jr. obviously having a big day overall as well. Congratulations to him for those 73 points to kick it off. But Scrapie, you've got to hand it to him. Not a bad way to end the day. 4th place, he does it on the final map. And honestly, just have to give him a shout out for a wonderful performance in that last track, and I'm excited to see how he can continue forward strong. But as you can see, the time and effort put into that track number 6 pays off here greatly, and he's able to secure 13 points and a 6th place finish overall on the day. That is going to be where we leave it here, though, for the day, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in here and showing their support here in this first step of the season. Be sure to follow the channel here and show your support for Scrapie if you haven't yet as well. Of course, one last shout out to our amazing partners, Logitech G and XP Sports. Be sure to show them some love as well. You can follow us on social media as well, at Lazarus on Twitter, to stay up to date with our coverage here of the TMGL Winter 2021 season. But guys, it's been a pleasure. You've all been fantastic. Appreciate everybody tuning in and showing their support for Scrapie here in the chat. And that's where we're going to leave it for today, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.